Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Coming back to our RPGT. So this is RPGT part 2. Alright, we are going to look into again allowable loss, and we are going to continue from there. Alright, so as a recap, so when a company having any disposal where you have your disposal price minus acquisition price, then you have your chargeable gain, and then of course you are given exemption. What is the exemption? 10% or 10,000, whichever is higher. Right, so given exemption here minus, so the balance here then you times by the RPGT rate. Alright, so RPGT rate depends on the holding period. Okay, so what happens is that instead of having a chargeable gain, you have a chargeable loss. Or bukan chargeable loss, allowable loss. Right, kalau loss tak kena chargeable dah. Alright, we have allowable loss. So the law says that if you have allowable loss, right, for the current year, so of course there's no more any exemption, no RPGT lah, because there will be loss, having loss. So you don't have, so you stop at this allowable loss for that year of assessment. So it says that when you have disposal price is less than your action price, then you have allowable loss. So the law says that although there is no RPGT payable, RPGT tax return is still required from both the disposer and the acquirer, and to be submitted to RRB within 60 days on the disposer, as in the case of chargeable gain. This is to ensure the allowable loss can be carried forward or to be set off against future chargeable gain. Right? And effective from 2010, January 2010, allowable loss from the disposal of real property would be allowed to be carried forward to be set off against subsequent chargeable gain. Alright, from subsequent disposal either in the same YA or following YA until it is fully utilized. So what happens is that whenever you have allowable loss, of course you don't have to pay any tax in the current year, but the losses you can carry forward to the following disposal. Right? So it says that the following disposal could be in the same year of assessment, or it could be in the different year of assessment. So assuming that, for example, I dispose of property in January, so I have allowable loss. And then in the same year, in August, I dispose another property having a chargeable gain. So what happened is that the loss in January I can use to set off against my chargeable gain in August within the same year of assessment. Or maybe I dispose for property in January this year, year 1, and another disposal in year 2. So the loss in year 1 can be set off against disposal in year 2. Right? So but remember that this one is from 1st January 2010. 1st January 2010. So it means that whenever you have a chargeable gain, you can minus your allowable loss. Alright? So but remember that if you are an individual, you have a chargeable gain minus exemption first, right? Exemption, which is a 10% or 10,000. Then only you minus your allowable loss. So where do you get this allowable loss? From the previous disposal. Alright, you minus your allowable loss, then only you get here the balance, then only you times by your RPGT rate. Yeah? So that means that this allowable loss will reduce your balance of, will reduce your tax liability. Yeah? Okay. So why the date is 1st January 2010? Because that is the date of the change of tax law. So it means that what happened to prior 2010? So prior to 1st January 2010, we have, in this case, alright, to 1st January 2010 onwards, we have allowable loss. But prior to that, we have what we call loss relief. Alright? So there's a loss relief. Any disposal prior to 1st January 2010, you have a loss relief. What is a loss relief? It's similar, whereby, right, we have chargeable gain, right? In this case, for example, for that, let's say assuming this Y prior to 2010. Or why 1998? I can make it 2008, for example. Right? Prior to 2010, I have a disposal price and I have an acquisition price, but here I have allowable loss. Okay? What happened prior to 2010, this allowable loss, you have to times by the tax rate for the year. Remember, it's a loss. You are not paying any tax liability because having a loss, but this loss you have to times by the tax rate depending on the holding period. Just like when you have your chargeable gain, but now you times by tax rate, here you have a loss relief. Right? So let's say your allowable loss is 10,000, let's say. Alright, and tax rate for RPGT, if it's taxable, the holding period gives rise to a 30% tax rate. So it means that your RPGT, or in this case your loss relief, is 3,000. Isn't it? So this loss relief, alright, arises for disposal prior to 2010. But if you dispose in 2011, for example, which is after 2010, then you will have allowable loss only. This allowable loss you just carry forward. So there's no times by allowable loss, you just carry forward to be set off against your chargeable gain. What happened to this loss relief? If in the following year, alright, let's say assuming that you dispose in 2011, in 2010 allowable loss, this one comes from 2010, let's say. Alright? So you have allowable loss and still balance of, for example here, let's say is 30,000. Alright? Tax rate is 20%. So how much is it? 6,000, right? What is this 6,000? Is your RPGT. Right? Means that after you have a chargeable gain minus your exemption minus your allowable loss, you have 30,000. Allowable loss here from 2010, but at the same time, alright, so in this case you have to pay 6,000. At the same time, you still have a loss relief from the disposal in 2008. You get that? So in this case, in disposal in 2011, you have allowable loss from 2010. You also have a loss relief from 2008. So what happened to this loss relief? Loss relief is used to set off against RPGT payable. So you minus your 3,000 here. Remember, your loss relief is 3,000. So that loss relief is set off against your RPGT payable, means that at the end of the day, disposal in 2011, you only have to pay the balance 3,000 RPGT payable. Is that clear? Right? So allowable loss, so that's the difference between allowable loss and loss relief. Right? Two things, you can have both allowable loss and loss relief in the same year of assessment. So if you look at the difference here, right? Where are we? Loss relief. Yeah. The distinction is that you have what is this? Alright, the distinction between allowable loss and loss relief. So you have a positive chargeable gain or negative chargeable gain. So from 2019, alright, allowable loss. Okay, I think that you just refer to my example. So means that here, alright, if you have allowable loss, chargeable gain minus allowable loss, which is carried forward from 1st January 2010. So once you have your RPGT rate, RPGT payable minus loss relief, which is brought forward from prior to 2010. So you have the net RPGT payable. Okay? Okay. Alright, please go through this example. Example 36.9 that will give you a scenario where you have loss relief here, right? And then you also have allowable losses later. Yeah, so you see that the answer here, you have chargeable gain and then you have loss relief, right? You don't have allowable loss here. Alright, the next topic that we are going through is what we call inter vivos gift. Alright, inter vivos gift. So this is a special section under RPGT. Okay. So number one, we have looked at the normal principle. Right, where we have your disposal price minus acquisition price equals to your chargeable gain. Alright, and then we also have looked into the treatment of allowable loss and loss relief. Yeah, and then we also have looked into the exemption, in this case exemption under schedule 4, where we talk about the 10% or 10,000. Whichever is higher. Okay. What about the next one? We are going to look into what we call inter vivos. Yeah. And then remember that this one you also have the market value. Okay. When you have this acquisition of asset prior to year 2000, you have to use the market value as at 1st January 2000. Okay, what is inter vivos? Right? Inter vivos is giving away. Right? Giving away of real property as a gift. So what happens is that when you have a real property and then you give it away to someone else as a gift, do you have any consideration received? No. Because what is a gift? So you just give it like that and then there's no consideration received. So it's deemed that in that case, alright, if you don't have any consideration received, then the consideration received is deemed to be at market value. Yeah? So it's a deemed disposal at market value and the beneficiary is deemed to acquire the asset at market value. So example for I have a property, I give it to my friend, my best friend, right? My property, I give it away to my best friend as a gift. So in that case, there's no disposal value. But because I need to compute, because whenever there's a disposal, right, I'm subject to RPGT. So what happens is that I have to take my disposal price at market value. So whatever the market value of that property at that date, that will be my disposal price. And to my friend who received the property, alright, that property is deemed to be acquired at market value as well. So how you decide on the market value? Then you have to check on the valuation. You have to employ a valuer to value the property, the market value of that property. Yeah. So using that market value, then you know your acquisition price. Then you compute whether it's a gain or there's a loss on the disposal. Okay. Exception. It means that, alright, under normal circumstances, inter vivo will be disposal at market value. But in order to relieve Malaysian citizens from RPGT when giving property to close family members, yeah, Para 12 Schedule 2 allows the donor to deem the gift situation as a disposal of real property at no gain, no loss. What happens is that whenever you have disposal to close family members, for example, who are these close family members? Husband and wife, parent and child, or grandparent to grandchild. So these are the only three that fall into the exception. So if I were to my husband were to give away the house as a gift to me, alright, to my husband is a no gain, no loss. Alright, so in this case we have the disposal and then we have the acquirer. The disposal we call it as a donor, we can donate, right? Give away. Acquirer we call it as a recipient. Right? So what happens is that under inter vivo, where between close family members and only three here, yeah, husband, wife, parent to children, grandparent to grandchildren, or the other ways around, yeah. So the donor to him is a no gain, no loss. What do you mean by no gain, no loss? Your disposal price is deemed to be your acquisition price. So to the donor, you don't have to pay any tax because there's no gain, there's no loss. There's no chargeable gain, there's no allowable loss. So to the donor is a zero tax liability. Is that clear? What happened to the recipient? Recipient pay anything? No. But what is the acquisition price for the donor? Alright. So in this case, the donor shall be deemed no gain, no loss. What happened to the recipient? Alright. We call it as a paragraph schedule 2. Applies only if the donor is a Malaysian citizen. Alright. Means that you apply that if the Malaysian citizen, then it's a no gain, no loss. Alright. Citizenship is at the time where the gift is given, effective from 2019. No gain, no loss situation will be extended to all holding periods and need not be restricted to holding period for less than 5 years. Remember that in the when we look into the tax rate previously, prior to 2019, any disposal after 5 years, tax rate is 0. Right? But now, so when you say that prior years, if disposal is, the holding period is more than 5 years, that's 0. So that's why previously this inter vivo only applies for disposal within 5 years. Because there's a tax rate, so there's no gain, no loss. After 5 years, not applicable because tax rate is 0%. But now, because in 2019, after 5 years, the disposal still at 5% tax rate. So that's why it says that this applies to all kind of holding period. Yeah, even after 5 years, you still have to apply to the donor. If you hold the asset for more than 5 years, it's still a no gain, no loss. Okay. What about the acquisition price to the acquirer? Before we go into the acquirer, what is the acquisition price of the disposal? How will you decide on the acquisition price of the disposal? It goes back lah. AP, when you first purchase the asset, how much is the acquisition price, concession paid, incidental cost, and capital receipts? It's just that the disposal price is deemed to be the acquisition price. That's why you have no gain, no loss. But to the acquirer, right, where the gift is paid within 5 years after the date of acquisition, the recipient shall be deemed to acquire at AP plus permitted expenses. So to the acquirer, AP equals to acquisition price of the donor, right? Whatever AP of donor plus permitted expenses. Permitted expenses incurred by whom? By the donor. So remember that in the last class when I said that you first purchase and then when you dispose of, okay? So here AP is AP here. AP of the donor. So whatever contribution paid by the donor, incidental cost incurred by donor minus any capital received by the donor, that will be AP of the recipient plus permitted expenses. So what is the permitted expenses? If we go back to the disposal price, what is your disposal price? Let's look. Where is your disposal price as a recap? Disposal price, remember, your disposal price is your consideration received minus capital expenditure, enhancement, legal fees, and incidental costs. So when I say permitted expenses, it refers to A and B only. Incurred by whom? Incurred by the donor. So it means that to the recipient, PE is whatever expenses capex incurred by the donor during the holding period plus any cost for the title, whether to preserve the title, whether to define the title of the property, that would be your permitted expenses, right? And of course, under here you don't have any cost incurred for all these things, right? So that's why under inter vivo here, you only take the actual price of the donor plus any permitted expenses to be the acquisition price of the recipient. Right? So let's look at the example here. Is this? Where is it? Okay. the AP by the donor and PE incurred by donor. Applies irrespective whether the donor is a Malaysian citizen or not. Right? So it means that, alright, when the donor is non-permanent resident, right? Remember that donor is non-permanent resident. Look at here, example. Give to close family members. If the donor Malaysian citizen, yes. If you have donor, no gain, no loss. But if donor is not, then donor is deemed to dispose at market value, even though to close family members. So it does not apply no gain, no loss here. What about to the recipient? Whether donor is a citizen or donor is a non-citizen, to the recipient, execution price is deemed to be AP by the donor plus PE of donor. Right? So this one is the same whether citizen or non-citizen. Example here. Nelson Tan on 28th of August 2019 gives a retail lot in Puchong to her daughter Joanne as a birthday present. The retail lot was purchased on 1st April 2017 at 636,000. In this case, GST is 36,000. The following incidental expenditure was incurred: stamp duty and legal fees inclusive of 180 GST. Nelson Tan incurred a renovation on 1st September 2017 to derive a monthly rental income of 2120. Nelson Tan is a GST registrant and a Malaysian citizen at the time of gift. Required advice RPGT implication to both parties. So in this case, a Nelson Tan give away to the daughter properties. So it fall under the inter vivos here, close family members. Nelson Tan is a citizen. So to Nelson Tan, the disposal subject to no gain, no loss. But to the acquirer, who is daughter Joanne, what is the acquisition price? Acquisition price would be the acquisition price of the donor and any PE incurred by donor. So what is the acquisition price of donor? Right, the retail lot was purchased 2017. So this one is the consideration paid, 636, GST 36. So under GST, right, you have to exclude the 36,000 because GST is not cost, right? It's actually amount payable to the government. So the cost of the house is only 600,000, right? So you have the AP of 600,000. Any cost, other cost, what is the PE? Is this stamp duty 12,000 PE? No. Hold on. Okay, this one is the AP incidental cost on the acquisition price. So you have AP of stamp duty. Stamp duty you have of 12,000, and then you have a legal fees of 3,000. So total here is 615. That will be the acquisition price of the donor. Any PE? Yes. The renovation is the capex incurred by the donor. So that is the PE, permitted expenses. So you have 12,000, PE of 12,000. Is it? 42,000. Right? To generate a monthly rental income of 2120. So monthly income is not. You only take the renovation capital expenditure. So this one means that now you have to the recipient of Joanne, right? You have 600, 615 is the action price of the donor plus permitted expenses of 40,000. So total would be, see, 655. Apa tadi?
42,000. 40,000. It's supposed to be 40,000.
6. Kenapa 615?
Nanti betul kan?
Betul lah, campur 40,000. Mana 40,000 lah? 40,000.
Minus.
Right? So you have 655,000 as the acquisition price of siapa? Joanne, anak dia, ya, the daughter. So that's how you compute the disposal price and acquisition price of the donor and the recipient. So that is on inter vivo. Then, right? Again, inter vivo is only close family members. To the donor, if it's a citizen, no gain, no loss. but if non-citizen, then disposal is at market value. To the acquirer, the recipient, the action price is the AP of donor plus PE of donor. What is PE? PE is the capital expenditure plus any cost incurred in preserving the title of the property. Next is the individual assumption. Remember that when we did the first computation, we do have exemption under schedule 4. Is it 4? Yeah, with the 10,000 or 10%. So that is one exemption. But what we refer to here, it says that effective from 2018, an individual who is a Malaysian citizen dispose of real property, alright, deemed to dispose at no gain no loss. Number one is that between spouses. So husband to wife, wife to husband is deemed to be no gain no loss. Right? It merely requires the disposer to be a Malaysian citizen in order to be eligible for the no gain no loss. There is no necessity to imply the spouse receiving the gift of property to be a Malaysian citizen. Issue here why husband is Malaysian, wife is non-Malaysian. Still, the husband can enjoy no gain no loss, or the other way around. Alright. Number two is that disposer is subject to no gain no loss when an individual dispose a property to a company controlled by him or his relative. Right? You are an individual, you have a property. That property you dispose to a company which is controlled by you or by your relative. Alright? And in this case, the disposer, the individual, subject to no gain, no loss. Right? It's good. But then later we have other issues, then we have to look into that more detail. Alright? Where we have this here under this is further expanded, the company controlling, expanded under individual transfer real property to a family controlled company. Okay? So here an individual is a no gain no loss. Alright? Provided that, okay, you have to tell the real property is owned by a citizen and ada and kat sini, ya. The consideration of the transfer of the real property comprises at least 75% of consideration in shares issued by that company and the balance of the consideration in money payment. So it says that, what it means that, okay, as an individual, I have a property and I also have a company which is controlled by myself or by my spouse or my relative. So whenever I have a property, if I were to transfer the property to that company, it's good for me because why? The transfer is a no gain, no loss, provided that, right, when I transfer, it's not a gift, no, the company has to pay me something. So if the company pays me out 100% in cash, then it does not fall into this category. Right? It does not fall because why? 100% in cash. So what I get is cash only. But what happens is that if the company, when I transfer the property, the company rather than paying me in cash, for example, let's say the value of the property is 1 million ringgit. Yeah. So what happened is that the company, instead of paying me cash 1 million ringgit, the company give me $750,000 shares valued at 1 ringgit each. Balance 250 ringgit only company pays me cash. So the consideration here, you have 75% from that 1 million, 75% in shares, balance 250 in cash. So whenever you have this consideration 75% or more in shares, then only is subject to here. Alright? Then only subject to no gain no loss. Alright? So the requirement is that, alright, it's owned by the individual and the transfer is 75% in shares. So let's look further. The transferor. The disposal of real property by individual to company would be treated as a no gain no loss no RPGT is payable by the individual, the shares so acquired, right? Remember that just now I get shares, 750,000, the shares is known as RPC shares, real property company shares. Yeah, the shares so acquired will be deemed chargeable asset by virtue of para 34 schedule 2. The subsequent disposal of such shares would be exposed to RPGT. Right? So let's look at boleh pause tak kalau I ada pandang. So this topic we are looking at an individual, okay, transfer property to a company. Okay, transfer property to a company. In return, the company pays him 75% in shares and 25% in cash. So let's assume that the value of when you transfer, the value is 1 million, right? So it means that you have shares 750,000 and cash 250,000. You understand the scenario? So this company must be controlled by him, yeah? Controlled company, because it's a controlled company. So how you see the control means that if you own more than 50% shares in that company, then you control the company, lah. Or maybe you don't control the company, but your spouse or your relative control the company. So it's a family-owned company, right? So what happens is that to this individual, if this is here, right, the law says that this one is at least, so more or equals to 70%. To this individual is a no gain, no loss, right? No gain, no loss means that that individual don't have to pay any tax on the disposal. But the share that he gets here, because the shares here, in this case, 70% of the consideration is made up of shares. These shares, later, this is what we call RPC shares. Real property company shares. Right? Real RPC shares here, upon disposal, is subject to RPGT. Bila you dispose. Right, you may dispose the following year or maybe later. So when you dispose the share, then subject to RPGT. Okay. So then when it's subject to RPGT, then of course you want to know what is the action price of the shares and what is the disposal price of the shares. Done. So then you have to come back to the scenario. How to decide on the acquisition price? It says that acquisition date will be the date the transfer of the real property by the individual. So when you acquire the shares, when you transfer the property, right? When you transfer the property, you get the shares, right? So that will be the acquisition date of the shares. Why is it so important on the acquisition date? Because we want to know RPGT rate, the holding period of the shares. Then decide on the RPGT rate. How much is the acquisition price of the shares? Of course, in this case, the share that you get valued at 750,000. But is it the acquisition price? The law says that the acquisition price of the shares will determine as follows. The transferor acquisition price for the real property. Not the 750,000, but it goes back to this transferor. What is the AP of the property? Right, transferor AP of the real property plus permitted expenses minus money payment received by him. So whatever money that you receive here will be deducted. Right, so it goes back to the action price is the AP of the transferor. In this case kita panggil apa? This one is the transferor. Right, AP of transferor plus PE of transferor minus cash. Cash refers to the amount that you receive on the transfer of the shares. Right, so that will be the action price. What about disposal price? Disposal price is the disposal price of the shares. How much you can sell the shares. Alright. Alright, the existing shares owned by the individual prior to the transfer of real property are, however, not chargeable asset. assuming like this. Before the transfer of the shares, before the transfer of the property, you already have shares in that company. So that shares is not RPC shares. But upon transfer of asset or property to the company, you get shares, right? In the form of 75%. No? If the shares is RPC shares, then now you have two types of shares. One is the non-RPC share, the existing shares, and you also have the RPC shares. The one subject to RPGT, only the RPC shares. So when you compute, or if you dispose everything, make sure that you only apportion only for the RPC shares. Yeah? So let's look at an example under 36.11 for this. Right? 36.11, on 1st September 2017, Zainal transferred Coco Estate land to Jasa Holdings Sdn Bhd for a consideration consisting of 300,000 ordinary shares of RM1 each in Jasa. The market value of the estate as at 1st September 2017 is 300,000. The paid-up capital of Jasa was held by the following person immediately prior. So before the transfer, these are the shares. So it means that here Zainal, already have shares of 50,000, and then you have Zainal's brother, Zainal's sister having a total 400,000. In this case, of course, Zainal does not control, but the family or the relative control the company. So because it's relative, so it falls under company owned by relative. Right? So when you transfer the shares to the company, then it falls under the provision. Transfer of property by an individual to a company controlled by him or by a relative. So the Coco estate was given on 1st April 2017 to Zainal by his father, who had acquired the estate for 200,000. The market value of the Coco estate as at 1st April 2017 was 240,000. So that's the facts. Then we have Zainal sold his entire shareholding in Jasa on 1st October 2019 for 700,000. Compute RPGT payable, if any, by Zainal on the disposal of the Coco estate and his shares in Jasa. Alright, so let's understand the scenario. Okay, it's about the same. Okay, we have Zainal, okay, who is a transferor. Right, transfer of property to a company controlled by his relative. In this case, how much is the transfer? Sell for a consideration cost of 300,000 shares, so you get 300,000 shares of each 1 ringgit each, and then so means that 100% of the transfer is in the form of shares. The consideration 100% in shares. Okay, market value is 300. So it means that now you transfer. Okay, to Zainal, the transfer is no gain, no loss. So you have to mention in your answer, to Zainal, the transfer lead to no gain, no loss because transfer of property from an individual to a control company and the exchange is 100% in shares. You must have all that points. Yeah, so that is settled for Zainal. What about the shares? The shares was later disposed of. Right? How much the disposal? Disposal price of the shares. How much you sell? You sell all your shares, isn't it? Right? Zainal sold his entire shareholding in Jasa 1st October 2019 for 700,000. How many shares you have? How many shares owned by Zainal at the end? Initially you have 50,000, right? Then you have another 300,000. But of all these, which one is RPC shares? 300,000 only, right? So the one, then you have to apportion because you dispose everything. How much the disposal price? 700,000. But all these 700,000 shares, RPC shares? No. Only 300,000 of that 350,000 is RPC, so that is subject. Right, means that not all 700,000 is your RPC shares, means that you have to apportion. How much is that then? 300 over 350 over 350,000 times by 700. Just salah je. Salah ni 5,000 kan? 300 over 350 times by 700. 600. Susah pun. Right, so this is your 600,000. This is your disposal price of the share. We are looking at the shares now. What is the acquisition price of the shares? What is the acquisition price of the shares? How to compute? AP of the shares. Acquisition price of the shares is AP of the transferor plus permitted expenses incurred by him. Any money cash payment? No, because everything is in shares. So what is AP of transferor? Interestingly, what happened is that where do you get that property? The Coco Estate, alright, Zainal. Coco Estate was given on 1st April 2007 to Zainal by his father. So bila his father yang bagi, fall under apa? Intervivos lah. But father yang bagi kat sini. Father bagi pada Zainal. Father is no gain no loss. Betul? Zainal, AP Zainal apa? AP of father plus PE of father. How much is the AP of father? The Coco Estate was given to Zainal by father who acquired for 200,000. AP is 200,000. Ada PE tak? No information provided. So 200,000 is the AP of Zainal. Shares here, go back right? Shares AP equals to AP of transferor campur PE. What is AP of transferor? 200,000 balik lah. 200. Any PE? 0. No, Zainal does not, in this case, transferor here is Zainal. Zainal does not incur any permitted expenses. So in this case, what is the AP? 200 lah. So disposal price AP is 200. What is 400? 400 is your chargeable. Right? Is it the same answer? Right. So in this case, Zainal acquisition price is 200,000. Alright. Money payment null 200. Did not pay. Deemed to acquire at 200 ringgit and not market value. Acquisition price is 200 and the acquisition date. Disposal will be, so in this case we have 300 minus 200. 600 is the disposal price of the shares. Acquisition price of the shares is 200,000. So you have capital gain of 400. And remember that the disposal is Zainal. Disposal of shares. So because of that, you have the exemption of 10,000 or 10%, whichever is higher. So you now have for 10,000 or 10%, 40 lah, whichever is higher, right? 40, so you have the 360. Then you see how long is the shares holding period. So it's within 3 years, so that's why the rate is 30%. So RPGT payable on the shares is 108. Mark. So that covers one big topic. Okay. Remember that the company, right? This is company. So the Zainal or the individual is what we call transferor. The company is what we call transferee. Okay, transferee. So to the company, and remember that when you acquire the asset, Zainal don't have to pay anything because it's no gain, no loss. To the company, where para 3B applies to the individual, the transferring company is deemed to have acquired the real property at the individual's original acquisition cost plus permitted expenses. So remember that the company pays 300,000 in shares. But this is disregarded because to the company, the acquisition price of the property goes back to AP of donor plus PE of donor. It always goes back there. It has nothing to do with the share that the company paid, right? The given out, right? In this case, again, it goes back to 200,000. So what happened is that if the company later, now company has the property, right? So the company, if they were to dispose of the property later, then the action price of the property is 200,000. Tapi company bagi berapa? Company bagi 300,000 to the individual, but AP dia jadi 200,000. So who is as the losing end? Company lah. Enjoy lah, transfer because dispose their property, don't have to pay tax. But later dispose the property, of course, based on this, right, then you have to pay tax. Huh? Who's at the most benefit? The government. Government, alright, initially they only have to collect tax on the real property. But now company collect tax on the shares plus on the property when company dispose of that property. So two taxes from the same source. Right? Genius tak government? Alright? Contribution paid by the transferring company and market value is ignored. This one, yeah. The company base value for RPGT, so it may be significantly below its economic cost. So it's why I say that, alright, 200 compared to 300,000. So this is far below than the punya economic cost. Any subsequent disposal by the company may result in higher RPGT liability, which may not commensurate with accounting profit. Okay. So then give you the example. It says that although Jasa Holding purchase condition it was 300,000 pay for the shares, the acquisition price is still at 200,000. Should Jasa dispose the Coco Estate land, it will incur a higher chargeable gain. It's true. In true essence, it transfer or shifted RPGT liability from Zainal to the company. Yeah. So that's why we say that when an individual having a company, alright, they can actually play around. Right, they can actually transfer. Okay, I sell the then company has to pay. Right, not on your name but under the company's name lah. So company has to pay, so it take out from the company's profit lah. Yeah. So that's why whenever you have your property, right, that's why whenever you have a company own company, then people normally play around. Right. For example, you purchase a motor vehicle under the company's name. Of course, you use it for personal usage, all these things. Yeah. Okay. Alright, and it says that this one is very new, effective from 1st January 2019. Right, individual disposing real property with holding period for more than 5 years, but the consideration is less than 200,000. Means that you have a property, you dispose of after 1st January 2019. You're talking about now lah. Alright, it says that you will be exempted. You don't have to pay anything. Even alright, and the property is more than 5 years. Remember just now, more than 5 years, 5% kan? So now more than 5 years, zero. Exempted, provided that the disposal price 200,000. Mana nak dapat house for less than 200,000 now? So bullshit. Alright, this one, I don't know. Even a low house, low cost apartment or low cost housing pun you don't get below 200,000. So this one just to play around lah. Alright, just to make siapa? Voters happy. But in real fact, alright, it's not practical because the consumption price is too low. If you say that less than 500,000, okay lah, alright, then a lot of exemption can be enjoyed by the individuals. Alright, the main objective is to relieve burden of individuals selling low, medium cost and affordable houses. But still, where you get 200,000, tell me, I want to buy 2 or 3 units. Chill. So this one is also another, it says that exemption if you dispose real property in 2018 or prior years but subject to government approval. And before we stop, I just want to go through this one more exemption, private residence exemption. Right? We say that Malaysian citizen or permanent resident individual are given RPGT exemption on disposal of one residential unit. So the one that we get exemption 10% or 10,000, two different exemption. Alright, the one that we have the no gain no loss is different. This one means that if I have many properties and I dispose of, I can choose any one of the property disposed to be exempted from tax wholly. Any one of the properties. So I have to decide, like, if I have many property, which one I want to opt for exemption. Of course, I will opt for the one that give me the highest chargeable gain. Sorry. Right? The one with the highest chargeable gain, go for exemption. Right? So, but the law says that the following condition must be fulfilled. Individual must be a citizen or permanent resident of Malaysia. It must be a residential property. So, kalau commercial tak boleh. Right? Or part of the building is used for residence. Resident building is occupied or rented or fit for occupation, and the disposer had not elected for the exemption prior to this, as the exemption is only available once in a lifetime. So bila nak pilih tu, you have to really consider lah which one will give you the highest chargeable gain, that you may want to go for exemption. Right? So I think we stop here, and then we'll continue. Alright, we'll continue with the next topic. Alright, maybe I should go for tak apalah. I think I stop here. We'll continue again in the next class. Assalamualaikum.